What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and this is my brutally honest review for Lords of the Fallen. It's felt like, for the last 10 years, a lot of game developers have been trying to copy from software. Games like Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, and Elden Ring are not just popular, but they're incredibly good. Action RPGs that are focused on challenge, about insurmountable odds, and killing a crazy multi-stage boss. For the first time, I feel like a studio has perfectly managed to capture the love of Dark Souls. Lords of the Fallen is pretty much Dark Souls 4, and I truly mean that in the best way possible. I love this game. I love the combat, I love the kicks, I love the crazy upgrade systems, I love the rather confusing gauntlets you have to explore. This is a big game that likes to kill you, but I think it's one that's definitely worth giving a shot. But let's dive deep onto all the different aspects of it. If you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So, in case you don't know, I am DreamcastGuy, and I'm a big classic fan of action RPGs like this. I grew up playing a lot of Dark Souls and Demon's Souls ever since they initially came out, and I could tell that they were something unique. It's not just about having tough enemies with a million health. It felt like a game where how you played it actually mattered. In Lords of the Fallen, you have 13 different classes to choose from, lots of character customization, lots of different options for how you want to upgrade, but most importantly, you have 30 bosses that you need to defeat. Some are optional, but all of them are intricate, chaotic, dark gods. We're playing as a Justiciar. Think of it as like kind of a slightly evil, slightly creepy paladin. Now, you can play this in multiple different ways. You can be a spellcaster. You can be an escaped prisoner with purposely low stats. You can be a barbarian that uses 2 tiny weapons to do savage attacks, or a rogue that can try and stagger people. I decided to be a rather standard strength build. I'm very obsessed with the anime Berserk in the manga, which is one of the primary inspirations for Dark Souls, so I decided to pretty much roleplay Berserk. Being a knight, I really enjoy the fact that as soon as this game begins, you realize this is something very special. As soon as you make it past the opening tutorial area, you'll quickly begin to feel this sense of connection to your character through the combat. This is a slow, heavy, brutal style of fighting, but that's also what's so fun about it. Whenever you're playing this, this has a standard dodge, parry, block system. When you're fighting, you can choose to just have like a two-handed sword in your hand and carry it with both hands and do very heavy attacks, but for any character, you can carry a shield and use it to block enemies, to absorb damage, or try and knock their blows out of the way and stagger them for a big attack. But here's the interesting part of it. Wither. If you block an attack, your health gets turned white for a second, and if you hit them, you grow that health back, which means that this game definitely prioritizes block builds if you're kind of new to Dark Souls. If you're afraid of trying to time your dodge rolls, I'm the kind of person that loves to just try and get out of the way of a lot of big hits, but I like that there is this secondary option for how you can choose to carefully dismantle some of these bigger fights. Now, there is a big extra wrinkle to this game that is so insane that I just have to show it to you. This is called the Umbral land. Essentially, your character is able to go beyond the Veil of Death. When you're fighting, your health is there. You know, if you get hit, you can drink an Estus flask. You can basically refill your health a couple times each checkpoint. But additionally, if you do die, if your health gets completely reduced down to 0, instead of just instantly dying, you go beyond the Veil of Death. Now, in the Umbral lands, you'll notice you're in the exact same map, but also it's kind of messed up. Sometimes the environments will be covered in skeletons, or there's extra shortcuts. Every part of this game technically has two separate maps: the real world and the land of the dead. Now, here's why that's so incredibly cool. It's not just that you get an extra health bar, it's that the land of the dead is different. You'll be going across rickety scaffolding, and you just get out your lantern to witness little peeks into the land of the dead. Whenever you want, you can shine your flashlight and basically see the Umbral lands, and sometimes you'll see extra treasure chests, extra shortcuts, more ladders, or sometimes a door that's locked isn't locked in the land of the dead, and by holding up your lantern, you can pass straight through that ghostly door. You can even see ancient dead giants. The whole Umbral land concept is incredibly cool because when you die, it is possible to find these totems to come back to the land of the living. But what's extra cool about this is that there is this constant pressure. When you're in the Umbral land, it keeps spawning these tiny weak minions. You can't just stand there and soak up the nice scenery. You have to keep moving to find a way back to this side of death, because if you don't, you will perma-die. If your health is reduced down to 0 when you're in the Umbral land, you get sent back to the last checkpoint. But even that actually has a crazy extra wrinkle to it. So typically in these action RPGs, when you die, you're dead. You're sent back to the last bonfire or the last major, crux, the next crossroads that you passed previously. Here, they actually have a way to create your own checkpoints. You will find these things called vestiges that let you essentially, whenever you die, you'll go back there. When you're there, you can also fast travel instantly from any vestige. So it makes it where you can warp around the game when you're trying to power level, or if you want to go back to the home base to do some upgrades, which we're going to talk about more in a second. But what's extra cool is you could use these Umbral seeds to grow checkpoints. They're very rare, but you can make a checkpoint in all sorts of different places. And I really love this idea because, of course, if you're stuck on a boss, 99% of the time there's a vestige, a checkpoint nearby. But it's cool that sometimes you're going to have trouble just trying to do a platforming section or something. It's cool that you can make your own checkpoint where you want so that it creates the assist you need. I don't know, this seems like that extra bit of customization to your adventure that Dark Souls needs, and Lords of the Fallen thought of it. But let's talk a bit about the bosses themselves. Like I said previously, there is 30 different bosses in the game itself, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to show you some of the first 10 bosses. And these guys definitely ride range. They are things like a demonic monk, giant monsters that have a million teeth, or a huge Dami mommy that wants to shoot white energy down your mouth, stuff like that. But each of the bosses, I do like the fact that they do feel tough, but not impossible. Almost every single fight, by the time I got to it, I was able to experiment, and even on my first dry run, kind of figure it out. Now, part of that is because, I've played hundreds of hours of Elden Ring. I've played lots of Dark Souls. Maybe it is just that I'm more experienced to memorizing enemy attack patterns and dodge rolls, but it goes beyond that. I think the bosses are designed with a really fun sense of logic. They never just do crazy stuff. They never just teleport. They never do a 15-hit combo. Everybody feels fair, but such a perfectly balanced challenge. I think the best compliment you can say to a tough boss is I had times where I died to an enemy at literally 1 health. And you know what? I wasn't frustrated because the dodging, the combat, the hits felt so good, I immediately just wanted to try again. It didn't feel like the game was punishing me or that it was badly designed. It truly felt rewarding to get back up, to dust myself off, and go back and try and F him up next time. But that also brings me to the leveling. So in any Dark Souls game, any of these action games, a lot of times grinding is part of it. As you're exploring and killing enemies, you're going to gather a bunch of resources. You're going to get different materials for crafting. You're going to get different stuff so you can smear like electricity on your blade, or extra weapons that you're going to find. Armor, of course, is going to be tucked all over the place. But additionally, killing enemies gives you a sort of currency to level yourself up. It's not called souls, it's called vigor. But whenever you get these souls, this vigor stuff, it lets you go back to checkpoints and level yourself up. Of course, it's the standard thing. Do you want more health? Do you want more stamina? Do you want more raw power to your hits? Because I went pretty strength heavy. But additionally, you can spend this back at the blacksmith. So this has unlocked a decent chunk into the game itself, but there's extra ways to upgrade your gear that get incredibly deep. In the fort called Skyrest, you can buy additional magic. You can make a deal with like a weird demon lady and actually get different passive bonuses equipped to your lantern. Like, I got a cool passive bonus where whenever I dodge roll, it actually inflicts wither damage. So it basically slowly melts enemies as I'm dodging. Incredibly strong, as you might imagine. But you can also just straight up upgrade your weapons, just bit by bit, dump resources and use different tokens you find to upgrade the weapons, armors, and shields you like most. I love the fact that Lords of the Fallen has like 15 separate things going on at once. You're always trying to test out new skills, trying to chain together different combos. Do I want to be two-handed? Do I want a sword and board and have a sword and shield out to try and parry attacks? Is there a bunch of tiny enemies? Maybe I should start throwing fire bombs to try and melt them. Is it one big foe? Perhaps it's better to take off my armor and actually just try and completely dodge him while wearing some light robes. I love this game from start to finish. It was 25 hours of bliss, but I do think that if you love something, you need to be able to critique it. The camera at times could be frustrating. It's very rare, but in certain areas that I don't really want to spoil, there were tight caverns and stuff, and the camera could actually go inside the wall. And when this happened, you can't see. Now, again, this did not pop up very often. It's not like I was constantly just completely blinded. But when it did, I definitely died some unfair deaths where a big guy is chasing me down and he has a charge attack and I simply cannot see it coming. When that happens, it's not a good time. Additionally, I'm playing this before the game came out. Obviously, this is a pre-release build. In my version of the game, I did experience some bad frame rate in some of the outdoor areas. Not a ton of them, and again, I'm afraid to show them because they're kind of spoilery, but I'll show you this one here. This area where I'm like climbing on cliffs and there's like 8 million flags, for some reason, this would get laggy when I was playing the game for like 6 hours straight. I don't know if that's like some sort of weird memory leak issue. It's probably going to get patched with the day one patch, but I wanted to point it out that if you're playing this, perhaps you may have some frame rate issues in some of the grander landscapes. Overall though, Lords of the Fallen completely nuked my expectations. I thought this game would be fine. I thought it would be fun. I was not expecting to have hundreds of weapons, hundreds of pieces of armor, hundreds of different ways to play. Holy heck, is this a damn good time. But, okay, we've heard some good and some bad. Let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Lords of the Fallen a 9 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big ol' like. It does help out. And, you know, if you want, feel free to subscribe. No pressure, baby. Just if you want to. But it is actually imperative that you do me the biggest favor and keep dreaming. Man, this game is good. Obviously, I played this digitally, got a review code thanks to the publisher, but I'm definitely going to buy this physically for the collection because this is a baller ass game. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.